Hey, welcome to Midweek Minutes. And you might be surprised to see my face this week, but sometimes when you get toss out an idea, you get the one, you get to be the one to execute the idea. So that kind of brings me to some of the thoughts that I want to share with you this morning about having ideas, which sometimes lead to projects or work, and then the effort that it takes to implement them and execute them. Last week I was reading through the book of Ecclesiastes, which was written by King Solomon, and he was one of the richest and one of the wisest men of his time, or maybe of all time. And there was a few things that stood out to me that is still in the process of kind of realigning my mindset with God's truth, and I just want to share a couple of those things with you. One word that really stood out to me was the word projects. Let me read it to you. This is in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, and starting in verse 4. This is King Solomon writing, I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. And I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. And I'm sitting actually in front of one of my projects that I just finished last week. I've got a whole list of projects that I want to get done this summer. I'm looking at one of the biggest and the worst in front of me is another big flower bed that I hope to tackle before summer's end. But part of the problem with projects is that sometimes just work itself can really make us feel overwhelmed or feel like we're in a rat race. And even King Solomon felt that despair. Let me read how he felt after he had finished all of his projects. He says in verse 11, Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, chasing after the wind, and nothing was gained under the sun. Well, it doesn't take a genius to know that no matter how hard we work, the weeds always come back. The bugs and the storms and not enough rain or too much rain or the deer can really ruin what we're trying to plant or what we're trying to accomplish. And life can seem like a series of vicious cycles. The work is never done. It's never enough. It's exhausting, and it can really be it's monotonous. We keep doing having to do the same things over and over again. But that's where this another thing that stood out to me as I read, and I found these gems in chapter 3, and I want to read them to you. Verse 9 of chapter 3. What does a worker gain from his toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on men, and he has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom what God has done from the beginning to end. And I know that there's nothing better for men than to be happy and to do good while they live, that everyone may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all his toil, and this is the gift of God. I know everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. God does this so that men will revere him. Deep inside, we all long for something that will give us meaning and purpose, that transcends the daily grind. And that little verse, it says, He has set eternity in our hearts. Well, here's the secret, I think, about work and about finding happiness and joy in our lives. The first is that joy and happiness is really found in just the simple things of life. We kind of know this deep in our hearts, that things like sitting around the table and having a meal with family or friends, or drinking a cup of coffee in the morning, those simple joys in life. And when we settle into that simple living, combined with a grateful heart for the life, the health, and the ability to provide for our families, to create, to build, to make beautiful, to sweat, to take risks, to be part of a team, and to contribute something positive to the world. This is the gift of God that can bring us joy and happiness in our life. And the second thing is really the most important. You know, it's God, and that is God himself. It's God who infuses our lives with, and our work with meaning and purpose. It's his gift to us. It's a gift to humanity. And the more we get to know him, the more we revere him, like verse 14 says, it's that the more we can tap into eternity, which results into a greater sense of meaning and purpose in our life and work, and more joy and in our life. So this week, as you maybe tackle some project or you head out the door to work, enjoy the gifts of God with the simple and grateful heart for your daily bread, and embrace the seasons and the cycles of life, and hold on to, and or maybe you need to, for the first time, reach out for the hope that is eternal, which is found only in Jesus Christ. Have a great week.